If you enjoy this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for just $5 a month. Click on the card in the upper right-hand corner for more information. Boom! Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media. This is a slightly different lens than what I usually use to shoot these kind of vloggy videos. Let me know if you dig it in the comment section below. If you dig the shirt, they're available under the video in the new Teespring merchandise section. So if you want to ironically tell your friends to LOL and die if they tell a bad pun or joke, the shirt says it all. Today's video, we're going to talk about branding. Think of this as a branding 101, if you will, for building an online presence for a music producer, a music artist, singer, or any creative person for that matter. We're going to be focusing heavily on music in this video, but it's going to apply to other creative fields as well. We're going to start this video off with some case studies and some golden rules, if you will, of building a solid brand. Let's hop into the studio and get started. So today we're kind of stepping out of the ordinary of what I normally cover on this channel, which is pro audio and music production. And this is something I kind of hinted at when I first started this channel. The reason this channel isn't called Julian Gray Music or Julian Gray Audio is because I wanted to cover multimedia. So this is a video kind of stepping out of the boundaries of what I normally do on this channel. And today we're going to be discussing design and branding, and what makes a good cohesive brand and what makes a terrible brand. So the first thing we're covering today is keeping a uniform brand and keeping a consistent theme throughout all of your artwork and design. You have brands like the Deadmau5 brand, which all consist of that mouse head. You have the marshmallow, and you have Daft Punk and things like that, where you have a consistent theme to every single picture or piece of content that goes out on any of those channels. If we go to Instagram, and let's just try Marshmallow as an example because he has an incredible team, regardless of if you like his music or not. As you can see, every picture on his social media is very well shot, and every picture includes that iconic marshmallow head. And you can expect this. This is one of the keys to branding, uniformity, to have a brand that you can come to expect something out of. The biggest artists and the artists you'll find with the biggest following are people that you genuinely want to follow. And you can kind of predict when people want to follow something if you're putting out consistent content. If all of your content follows a similar theme, if somebody likes one post, goes to your profile, and sees that every single post on your profile are similar, they're going to want to follow it so they can see similar posts in the future. Marshmallow is a good example of that. Another example is Tycho. Let's go to Tycho's channel or on Instagram or whatever you want to call it. I'll expand this page so it's easier to see. As you can see, he kind of thrives off of this aesthetically pleasing, well color graded photography mixed in with well done graphic design, typography, and musical content. So he'll post like old school industrial like looking things, but somehow relate it back to music somehow. So here is a picture of the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. And that's a famous venue. As you can see, even these pictures of the musical pedals are color graded and follow a similar theme. So if you're scrolling through his profile, nothing really looks out of place. Here is a picture. It's got David Bowie in there. Musical, again, kind of associating back to that theme. So even though he's not posting festival photos like Marshmallow, he has a similar theme and he's relating back to that musical style. Tycho is a good example of one of the other points I have for this video, which is good typography and good design that's cohesive within the entire brand. As you can see, everything he's done up to this point follows a similar theme in terms of cover art and promotional materials. If you look at his album covers, they're always this one color with a nice texture over it, with maybe some minimalistic design, and always very, very clean sans serif typography. One of the things you'll find is that a lot of artists use this very sans serif typography style. There's like a handful of fonts that almost every artist resorts to just because of the longevity of those fonts. Helvetica is a really, really popular one. A ton of your favorite brands, let's just say Helvetica brand logos. A ton of your favorite brands utilize this font. There's the North Face, there's Jeep, there's Target, you have American Airlines, there's Google, which uses a similar kind of altered version of Helvetica. Staples is there, and of course you have things like Verizon as well. As you can see right there, that's the Helvetica. And the reason you use these fonts and the reason why there's a handful of standardized fonts are because these fonts are tried and true and stand the test of time. If you think about design from the 90s and you look up really stylized 90s graphic design, let's say, those designs are based on trends. And when you design something based on a trend like this, it's only relevant for the time period that you're in. But when you're using very, very minimalistic design, like Helvetica, or designs like that, those designs stand the test of time because they aren't really biased towards the era that they're written or created in. Things like this are very 90s. Whenever you see this, it kind of gives you a feeling of the 90s, which can be good or bad if your brand is associated with the 90s or you're trying to encourage that nostalgia. But unless you're going for that, things like this are good to avoid. Let's say that you use a stylized font from a site like DeFonts that you find cool right now. It might not be cool, if you will, in 10 years. There's a lot of good examples of that. Papyrus, the font, is a very good example of that. It was very, very popular in the 90s, and now it's a less popular font, and it kind of shows its age a little bit if you use it in your designs today. Even though it was the biggest thing ever at one point, now it's kind of dated, and that's the reason why we use sans serif minimalistic typography like this, because it stands the test of time. If you look at old synthesizers and things like that, they generally use sans serif fonts. As you can see, here's some right there, and it's very popular in the industrial industry because it stands the test of time. Very easy to read. Weathering and damage won't really ruin the legibility of it like it would with a serif font or a cursive script font, and it's just very clean and nice to use. There's a few examples of designs and brands that I personally disliked. Cruella is a good one. Cruella logo, for example. This is a design based on the slant font, and I can't say too much about it. I used to use the font myself back when I was a more naive graphic designer, but this is a very, very overused font. Slant font logos. And this was very all the rage back in maybe 2013 and 2014, and then it lost its relevance, and again it applies and falls into that niche of the time where it's cool for a minute and then it becomes not cool anymore. But when you start to use very, very minimalistic design like this, sans serif fonts, nice gaps kerning between the letters, very even, and geometric design like this, that's when you can have really timeless designs. And you'll notice that most huge musicians like Tycho or Skrillex and those people use very minimalistic designs. Skrillex is an interesting example because his logo isn't exactly a minimalistic font, but it's very easy to read and legible and almost iconic. You notice that Ausla always uses this Helvetica-esque font as well. And looking at Skrillex's page here, you can kind of come to expect a certain thing from his page, kind of spreading positivity, hanging out with cool people, hanging out with his friends on the weekends, like his song says, and stuff like that. And most of these pictures are very well shot and well framed. That's kind of a thing of his too. Very good photography, almost a nostalgic feeling with that teal and blue color correction. He almost adds grain to their style. Another good example would be the Ausla brand. As you can see here, this is Ausla. If we go to their page, they have a very consistent theme as well. Nice color graded, almost like a desaturated look, and a almost like artificial grain added to every photo that they put on the page. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and almost every single one of these photos, as you see, includes that Ausla logo. So try to find this when you're developing your brand or building your brand. Something easy enough that you can take a bunch of content for and try to find something that people really enjoy And if you can find one post that they really enjoy, maybe base your next few posts around that and follow that theme and run with it and see if people enjoy it. Because let's say I followed this, I find this on the Explore tab or whatever it is on Instagram, and I go to the page and everything else doesn't look at this quality, I'm not going to follow the page. But if I click on this and I go to the Ausla page and I see some really cool art like this, similar photography to this, and then I see the beach, maybe I see this right here with the Ausla logo in the sunset and stuff like that. Really well shot photography, all under a similar theme with that like grainy look and nostalgic photography feel. I want to follow the page because all of the art is reminiscent of that one post I originally liked. The next point is to use a consistent style of graphic design, including the same font. There's something called a house font. That's when you use a single font for your entire brand, and that's a really, really good practice to keep the design very cohesive and in-house. As you can see, all of my thumbnails, even though they're different colors and styles, and I can probably improve upon that just by picking a key color. I'm kind of doing that recently with that magenta color, as you can see. But every one of my thumbnails uses this exact same font. It's called Railway. That's my in-house font, if you will, the one I use for everything I design on my channel or my brand. There's plenty of other brands that use similar feels, and the other thing is picking an in-house color or color palette. As you can see, my brand is kind of represented by this dark magenta, and white, and that's kind of consistent throughout all of my branding. As you can see, even this little circle, though a little bit more stylized and designed, uses that. Let's take a look at a more famous business. Maybe we'll try Verizon, for example, just so we can see a better example of this using the same font for everything. As you can see in this Verizon advertisement, the unlimited is in the same font as the logo, and that's Helvetica, as we discussed earlier. Here's Verizon Connect. That's an advertisement. The 5G with the check is Helvetica. This Yahoo with the check is Helvetica. And again, it's using the same exact font as an in-house font to kind of keep a consistency to your brand. Let's try one more, who I consider the kings of design. Let's go to the Apple website, or let's take a look at some of their design. Actually, let's go to their website. That's a good idea. Apple.com. So as you can see, the entire brand is based around this Helvetica font. They actually made their own version of Helvetica called San Francisco. It's a little bit more condensed, but it's still the basic idea. And the thing I really like about Apple's brand is that it really accentuates the products. As you can see, the entire page is either white or black, and the product kind of takes frame here. This frame could be even tiny. It could be a tiny little window here, as you can see the mobile version there. And as you can see, the phone really captures the attention of the page. And that's due to this white design and very minimalistic font. It's not loud. It doesn't capture your eye, and it allows the phone to really speak for itself. Same for this iPad here. And this is some incredible product photography. You don't have to be that great at photography to establish the same ideas. As you can see, here's the Mac Pro, or I'm sorry, the MacBook Pro kind of taking charge in this little part of the ad here. As you can see, they have this consistent theme throughout their ads of this minimalism, and that's what I consider a really, really well thought brand, because the brand is allowing the products to really speak for themselves. They pride themselves in design of the products, so it allows the products to really capture the viewer's attention here and really showcase the design that went into them. So the last point of this video, I think, before we wrap up, is to keep a consistent brand identity. Think of that Skrillex example. Let me just go to his Instagram again so I can show you. Skrillex. That guy looks like he's having a great time. Skrillex, he has this identity that he's this guy who is very cool, meets a lot of people, loves to hang out and go on adventures and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily that focused on music, but people love it. It's what people come to expect from Skrillex. And it's what will make your brand followable or likable in the eyes of a consumer, You don't want to confuse people. You don't want to post several different things on your channel or your Instagram profile in this case and just confuse people. You want to have a consistent brand identity. You want to be genuine. You want to represent what you represent. And then when you do that, it kind of shows through, as you can see, like in Skrillex's case. Every one of these photos is him being very real with his fans and meeting cool people and hanging out with people. So the main points that we covered in this video are brand uniformity, keeping everything kind of uniform, so if they find one thing, they won't come to expect it, and then you have something else on your profile to throw them off guard. That's bad. Having a very, very timeless design, minimalistic sans serif fonts do that very, very well. You can use serif fonts and stuff like that, but don't use anything too stylized. It's going to not stand the test of time. And when it becomes out of an era, and I'm sure you've seen like these SoundCloud profiles from 5 or 6 years ago using like these DeFont fonts, they look super unprofessional. It might be cool right now, but it might not be cool in 10 years. We don't know. So go with the tried and true method. Use something very minimalistic that really lends itself to the typography and the lettering. Having a brand color palette is great. I suggest if you're going to just start your brand now, going for either black or white as one of the 3 colors, and then using either 1 to 2 accent colors. I use magenta, white, and a lighter magenta. There's a ton of brands that use 3 colors, like McDonald's in the yellow, red, and white. You have Verizon with the white, black, and red. But again, picking a brand color palette is never a bad thing. Marshmallow with the white and black look. Color palettes, if you will, can help to really set your brand into stone in somebody's eyes. When they see the Julian Gray Media logo, they often think of magenta and white now. Or they see McDonald's arches and they think yellow and red. But you don't necessarily have to do this. Tycho is a good example of that. He uses kind of a softer color palette and just keeps the brand very uniform in stylistic design. And the last thing we covered just a second ago was a brand message. Trying to keep a consistent theme to whatever you're trying to say as a brand is a great thing. And you might have to think about it before you actually start the brand, but it's definitely worth giving a think before you get started and then decide, I don't want to make tacos, I want to make t-shirts about a year into it. So having a brand message and an initial goal from the start is always a good thing to do. Awesome, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. Let me know why in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed this camera angle here on the studio editing computer. I don't really use this one as much, and it hardly ever gets into my videos because it's more of the back end. But if you enjoy it, maybe I'll do some streaming or something on here. If you enjoy the shirt I'm wearing, you can pick one up, again, below the video. It really helps the channel out. And I am Julian of Julian Gray Media. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you're new to the channel, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.